but even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask. It kind of all sparked from that. And Jennifer actually came one day and she's like, this one verse, what was going on in our lives right now, she's like, this spoke to me in such a huge way. And I have this idea and I'm going through this, and it just came to her, and we went on a walk. It was during COVID, so we went hiking. And we went on this really long walk, and by the time we were finished with that walk, we knew what this book was going to be. And it just came around this verse in the middle of a trial where we're like, God's just speaking to us through this.
Mm. Jennifer, let's talk about the book itself and the concept of it. Now, the title is
But Even Now.
But Even Now.
From the verse.
As God directed you and inspired this, tell me what came out of it. What sort of concept did you develop from that?
Our story follows Denae, who lived in Jesus' time, and Trista, who lives in our time. And they just have problems that they're working to get through, and Jesus shows up in those problems in different ways, of course, because Jesus was able to be with Denae actually in person. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Trista is living in present times, and Jesus has also shown up for her just in a different way. And so kind of go through their stories together.
Today, as we look at the similarities between these two stories, obviously you're talking about two different time periods, probably two different sets of circumstances. So tell me about the similarities and the differences between these two characters. One, of course, who lived in the time, she was a contemporary of Jesus, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, as I understand it, a friend of Martha in this work of biblical fiction. So you have this character, and then you've got the character in present day. Similarities and differences, please.
Right. The really neat thing is that these women lived 2,000 plus years apart, but there are no new problems, right? So there are times in the time of Jesus, so Mary, Martha, and Lazarus and Jesus, they're there, but they're almost a secondary character. Denae is the main character in the old time, and she witnesses Martha's faith. When Martha walked up to Jesus after Lazarus had died, and he had been dead for 4 days, and they had sent word for him to come and heal him, and he didn't show up till later, right? Denae's there with all of it, watching this happen. When she comes up, when Martha went up to Jesus and said, but even now, we know, right? So she's looking at this faith and watching this story come about, and it's her struggle. So the struggles Denae has, we go through a lot of topics that have a little bit of a stigma in the Christian world right now. Miscarriage, not being able to have a family the traditional way, infidelity. It touches on, like the modern day, deals with some addiction, like pornography addiction and marriage trouble and things like that. So the modern day character, Trista, is going through the same thing, and she, in reading the Bible, comes across those very same verses, but even now, in John, that Denae experienced in person. And it speaks to them on very deep and very personal levels. And you just fall in love with the character so much. Like, Denae's character developed throughout this book as we were writing it. And we actually were working on a second book, a sequel to this. It's going to be called The Two Marthas, and Denae, it's going to be a generational story where Denae actually carries over into the next book. So at the end of But Even Now, we have the first chapter of our next book, The Two Marthas.